Hey everyone! Today I want to share the top mistakes that I see my clients make when they're trying to start eating healthier. And before I dive in, I just want to say, if you've made these mistakes too, you are not alone. I have certainly done all of these things personally when I was first starting out on my journey. It's very easy to make these mistakes because we've been given so much conflicting and confusing information about nutrition. So I'm here to share information that is both science and tradition driven, so is based on the wisdom of ancestral cultures. And also that I have seen work again and again for people who are trying to eat healthy, but find themselves falling off the wagon or just not getting the results they expected. These are the most common things that I see that they have gotten wrong. So let's start with the first mistake, and that is eating far too little fat. And honestly, just eating too little food in general. I can't tell you how many people have come to me trying to heal, wondering where they are going wrong, and come to find out that they are massively under eating calories. I think this comes from the idea that to eat healthy, we need to eat like a rabbit. I've had many clients come to me who said that their doctors said those exact words to them. We've all grown up in this very fat-phobic culture. Both our parents and our grandparents were taught that fat is the enemy. So we are multiple generations into feeling guilty when it comes to pulling out the butter, and we tend to skimp on these calorie-rich choices. Egg yolks, lard, tallow, and fatty pork chops and ribeyes should be a part of a healthy diet, and many people are still struggling to implement this. So I'm here to tell you, once and for all, fat is not your enemy. This has been disproven for a long time now. It just has not gotten into the mainstream medical understanding yet. Saturated fats are actually essential for our health. We need them to make our steroid-based hormones like cortisol and testosterone, estrogen and progesterone, and they are also the building blocks of our cell membranes. They allow us to also properly absorb minerals and vitamins, A, D, E, and K. And when you don't eat enough fat, you end up starving your brain and nervous system, quite literally. That's why you feel so bad when you are trying to eat healthy and not eating enough fat. This is especially true because most healing protocols, especially ones that focus on healing the gut, include reducing your carbohydrate intake. Well, we can't just take carbohydrates away without replacing them. So we have to replace the energy you were getting from carbohydrates with another calorie-rich nutrient, and fat is the primary choice. Fat is there to pick up the slack when we reduce our carbohydrate intake. We just need to be okay with being very generous with it. So if you are just starting out on this journey, I really encourage you to use an app like Carb Manager and actually track your calories and your macros for a few days. See how many calories you're getting in a day. See how much carbohydrate you're eating in a day. See how much fat you're eating in a day. This is not tracking your calories to limit your food, but to make sure you're actually getting enough. So it's the opposite of what most people are using it for, but it is so important because I have people shocked that they are eating 900 calories a day and maybe only getting 50 grams of fat, where we want you to, obviously depending on your gender and activity level, mostly getting up towards 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 calories and eating more like 100, 150, or 200 grams of fat. Now, the second mistake I see is people eating too little salt. Now, again, we've been told for decades that salt is dangerous, right? Salt is bad for you, limit your salt. But unfortunately, food scientists were mistaking the intake of highly processed salt found in fast food with a whole foods diet rich in unrefined mineral salt from sources like sea salt or inland pink salt. So when people cut out processed food, they end up cutting out all their salt, but they're not replacing it with the healthier option. Your body needs sodium. Sodium is a primary electrolyte, and you need it to regulate your blood pressure, support your stomach acid production, properly balance the function of the nervous system, and to actually produce energy on a cellular level. So without eating enough salt, you're going to feel dizzy, anxious, brain fogged, and chronically fatigued. The truth is, the so-called dangers of salt are not relevant when you're eating whole, unprocessed foods. And you need to add more salt than you think when you're not getting it from these processed food sources. So I often encourage my clients to add at least 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt per day on their food. And if you can't get that all in your food, obviously we want it to taste edible. So if you can't get that all in your food, put it in your water and drink it. I guarantee that you will find yourself feeling more hydrated, not less hydrated. So let's move on to the third mistake. That is relying on too many fake healthy packaged foods. And I want to be really clear. Just because something is labeled gluten-free, keto, or organic on the front of the package doesn't mean it's actually nourishing, healthy, or good for your gut microbiome. And so all the times people will say, oh, I'm eating this product, I found this food at my local Sprouts or whatever natural food store, and they're saying, well, it says organic, it says gluten-free on the front, and that means absolutely nothing to me to tell me if it's actually going to be healthy for you and your health needs. I really want to emphasize this. Packaged health foods, even ones sold at places like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's that are marketed as more beneficial options, still often contain all sorts of gums, seed oils, stabilizers, flavorings, chemical additives, and these are a burden to your liver and your gut. Real healing happens when your food actually looks like it came from nature. Your diet should be mostly things like meat, eggs, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and maybe even whole grains and legumes depending on your individual needs. So labels can be very misleading, and it's essential to get in the habit of actually turning the package over and making sure that you're reading the full ingredients lists on the back. Your body does know the difference between a real food and a fake food made in a laboratory, no matter how fancy the packaging is or how good the marketing is. All right, let's move on to the fourth mistake. This one's kind of funny. It's overdoing smoothies. I know this seems like a really silly, nitpicky thing, but it actually can make a big difference. Smoothies are often marketed as the ultimate health food. But here's what I see. When people start relying on smoothies for meals, they cram in a ton of greens, thinking they're being healthy. And a lot of these greens, like spinach, kale, and chard, are actually very high oxalate and are actually much better for you if you eat them well cooked and in small to moderate amounts. People often will also eat a lot of fruit. They will put in mango and pineapple and banana and all these very high sugar, high fructose fruits. And this can be very hard on the liver. So you're cramming in all these high oxalate greens without cooking them properly. You're adding in tons of fruit, much more than you would have eaten, right? You're just cramming it in and blending it up so it's easier to get in a lot more. This is hard on your gut and your liver. And then you are drinking cold, raw fiber without chewing. This is an absolute nightmare for the gut, and most traditional ideas around nutrition, for example, from Ayurveda, are always telling people avoid cold food, avoid raw food, especially if you have gut issues and especially if you have chronic health issues. So a smoothie is an absolute nightmare from this perspective. Digestion will not be optimal if you are eating a bunch of cold, raw fiber, especially ones that are very high oxalate. So I get that they're convenient, but for sensitive bodies, smoothies can actually be a trigger for inflammation. So they have their place, but please, if you are going to make yourself a smoothie, chew it and be mindful about the amounts of things like greens and fruits that you are putting in them. And they should never replace a fully balanced, warm cooked meal. Okay, I think we're actually finally at the last mistake, the fifth one. And this is the one that I had to add in here because so many people in the nutrition and wellness world are still overlooking this. And this is neglecting the state of your nervous system because you have a belief that diet alone is the answer for you. And I am the first person to say that food is powerful. I don't believe that I would have healed unless I had drastically changed my diet and done some very profound nutritional healing. But it is not everything. Part of the reason that my nutritional interventions worked so well for my recovery is because I was already doing deep, daily nervous system based work. So if you are the kind of person who is stuck in fight or flight, stuck in freeze, no matter how good your food is, your body is not going to digest or absorb your food, and it's not going to take the time to heal. Your literal tissues of your gut lining are not going to heal if your body is stuck in this state of stress. So implementing things like breath work, meditation, and other somatic practices, these are just as important as what you are putting on your plate. And honestly, I would rather you eat a non-optimal meal in a state of calm than be in a state of stress, even if you're eating the perfect things. That has always been my attitude. So, if you feel like you're spinning your wheels with food and you're not seeing the results you expected from your nutritional therapy, please take a look at these 5 areas. Are you eating enough fat and eating enough in general? Are you eating enough salt? Are you still leaning on packaged so-called health foods? Are you overloading your system with cold, raw smoothies? And most importantly, are you tending to your nervous system with the same devotion that you are given to your diet? Healing is not about being perfect. You have to create balance in your life that feels safe and feels nourishing. So let's bring food and nervous system care together. And this is where you're really going to see some true recovery. So please comment below if you have fallen into any of these 5 mistakes, and I'd be really interested to hear how you recognize them and how you're planning to get out of it.